What's up? What's up? We are here for a Browns Week 3 recap as they faced the New York Giants. I have many thoughts. I'll probably go on a monologue or whatever you want to call it today as we talk about today's game. Um, First, I want to give a shout out to Driving to the Top Productions as I'm looking at my notes. I want to give a shout out to Driving to the Top Productions. I want to give a shout out to Adam, the creator behind the madness that happens here, where we cover multiple teams in the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, college football, and so many other great things that we have here. So let's get started. The Browns lose today, 21-15, in a game that was definitely winnable. Um, we saw the same mistakes yet again, where the offensive line couldn't stop couldn't stop anybody. Multiple injuries to where Ethan Postage was at left guard. You have Whippler at right. You have um, Zinter. No, Zinter was at right. You have Nick Harris, who is back on the Browns here at center, and you have Joe Batonio out there playing left tackle. There's a lot of things wrong with that I see with that, but we got to figure out something that's going on with this offensive line. Um, Next, nobody really got open on the offense. I kind of feel like with all the things that happened in the offseason, a training camp, players holding out for contracts, trade talks, all kinds of things going on, to where an offense that was very productive last year with Joe Flacco just hasn't had a lot of time to mesh. Um, they just don't look well. So we're going to start off in the first quarter. Upon the kickoff, we force a fumble. Deshaun Watson throws a touchdown the very first play in 11 seconds. We score um, on a 24-yard pass to Amari Cooper. Um, and then it all went downhill from there. Um, the offense allowed 4 sacks in the first half, um, a strip sack, drop passes. Now, I know Watson did miss some guys in the game. There was a pass to um, Elijah Moore. Well, Elijah Moore was open and he didn't really throw him the ball because it looked like it was an option route. And the problem with option routes that a lot of people don't understand is that you're depending on two players to see the same thing at the same time. And obviously it wasn't. I don't know if Deshaun was thinking skinny post or to continue running up the seam, but he missed him there. There was a play where he missed Judy, overthrew him, and then there was a play where he missed Jordan Akins, who I'm totally not a fan of. I can't wait to get David Njoku back. We got to talk about the defense here. The defense, in my opinion, there's got to be some adjustments, and I'm putting the blame on Jim Schwartz because it seems like we've been figured out to the point where we can't stop a jet sweep, screens to the outside, run up the middle to keep you honest, short passes to the outside, and it can't be stopped. Malik Neighbors um, had a hell of a game. Malik had a hell of a game. Malik Neighbors had 8 receptions, 78 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He really put Emerson in a blender, and it was just a sad thing to watch this week. The Miles Garrett dealing with injuries, nobody else really getting home, can't stop the run. It was just a it was just a tough watch this week to watch the Browns. Um, and that's pretty much all I can really say here. Jerome Ford fumbling a draw play. I'd have took him out the game for the rest of the game. I'd have found a way to get Foreman in the game. I'd have put a receiver back there, I'd have did something. Cedric Tillman, he'd be on the practice squad for me. Jamari Thrash would take his spot. I understand we need a big receiver and we don't really have one, but we're not creating any kind of separation. And Jamari Thrash is the only one that has really shown anything for me that is a receiver that hasn't really gotten on the field so far. Um, if we want to sit here and look at the stats, we can go over it. Watson, 21 for 30, 21 out of 37, 196 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was sacked 8 times. Um, 8 times, guys. I understand that some of you have an agenda because you're in love with Baker Mayfield and want to blame him for holding the ball too long, but I'm just not going to let that stand here. If you watch our open mics on Tuesday that are usually around 8:30, 9:30, and we go on until we just have nothing to talk about, um, I've been very adamant that the offensive line has been an issue. And although earlier in the preseason, I was very excited for the Browns, but once I started to notice all of the injuries on the offensive line and the fact that Wells and Teller were not Teller, Wells and Jack Conklin weren't going to be back for the beginning of the season, I became very skeptical of what this offense could do. Um, we can blame play calling, we can blame a whole bunch of things, but altogether, the offensive line is the biggest issue here for me. Um, Jerome Ford, 37 yards. Watson, 26 yards rushing. We go to the receivers. Amari Cooper, 7 catches, 86 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Everybody else was under 35 yards. It was just an unacceptable day. Zadarius Smith, Obo Okoronkwo are the only guys with a sack. I don't have the pass rush numbers in front of me, but 5 penalties today, 2 turnovers that were costly, both of them. Um, I don't understand why this offense can't put anything together unless they have short field or it's the first drive of the game. Very upset with that. Um, but I'm gonna take this next 5-10 minutes to speak on some things about Deshaun Watson and some things that I'm seeing from other Browns fans on Twitter or on Facebook. When I'm down at the stadium for the game, uh, I'm tired of the hate. We all know the allegations. We've spoken on those multiple times. Um, Even with this new allegation that seems to be out of the news already, but it'll be back in the news probably next week when she goes to meet with the commissioner. But I don't expect anything from that because of the things that I'm seeing from the NFL and the things that I'm seeing from the Cleveland Browns, because it is in his contract, and this has been a major talking point amongst friends and family or just other Browns fans that this is a way out and this is something that they're happy for. I totally disagree, but I'll point back to that it says in the contract that if there are any new cases or any new women come up that have not been talked about or between Watson and the NFL, Watson and the Browns, that it was terms to terminate the contract. If this was somebody who neither one of them knew about, do we really think he'd still be playing? Do we think he'd still be on the roster? There is a lot of backlash about saying, there are 27, 28, 30, 50, however many cases. But if this went to federal Supreme Court in Houston and in Dallas, and all of them were dismissed and taken to civil court because there was no evidence, and that in those reports that did come out from those investigations, that multiple women were lying, multiple women uh, were found to be mutual interactions where nothing uh, happened as they had accused him of. Um, to the point where it just became, I'm going to pay out X amount of money and go from there. I don't condone any of those actions, um, whether they were mutual or not. But again, I'm not an NFL quarterback making millions of dollars. I don't have the same opportunities with the ladies that he does, just like these viewers don't. The viewers don't, or the commentators or the media guys. They, they don't. Um, but with that being said, the hate and the constant blame on Deshaun Watson whenever we lose or whenever Baker Mayfield plays well has to stop. I think we need to look at Andrew Berry more than we do Kevin Stefanski. And the reason being is because if you look at Baker Mayfield and you look at Deshaun Watson versus Joe Flacco, we had the correct pieces for Joe Flacco. We had a versatile tight end. We had a great run game, um, and an Amari Cooper that, although dealt with injuries, was a lot better last year than what he's shown so far this year. Um, I think the loss of our offensive line coach and run game coordinator hurt us. But to go back to Andrew Berry and that the reasons why I would blame him is that if you look at what Baker Mayfield is doing in Tampa Bay versus his stops in LA and Carolina, he has something similar to what he had in Oklahoma. A decent run game, a big physical receiver who can win one-on-one, and a speed guy in Godwin, some tight ends, and a decent offensive line. And one of the best tackles in the NFL, and Tristan Wirfs. You look at Deshaun Watson, he had Laramie Tunsil, if I'm not mistaken, at least his last year there that he played. He had D Hop. He had um, Andre Johnson at the end of his career, if I'm not mistaken. He had Jordan Akins, who looked like he could actually catch and outrun a linebacker, and he had a defense. I'm not saying that our defense isn't good because we know that they are. It's just that Jim Schwartz needs to make adjustments and get, in my opinion, Greg Newsome off the field. But that's a conversation for another day. When we look at what we have here for Watson, we don't have Nick Chubb. We don't have David Njoku. We don't have we didn't have a deep threat last year. We have one in Jerry Judy this year, but it doesn't look like they know how to get him open down the field. Cedric Tillman is trash as a big receiver. Doesn't know what routes to run. Can't catch the ball. Amari Cooper is dealing with getting in shape. Dewan Jones is out of shape. Joe Batonio has gotten old, and he might bow out at the end of the year. Ethan Posich and Wyatt Teller are not playing well. And Jet Wells played his first game today. And although there were some times where he looked good in pass rush, there were a lot more times where he didn't. Um, on top of the fact that a lot of newscasters, sportcasters, YouTubers, TikTokers, Twitter fingers are speaking on the fact that Deshaun Watson is holding the ball too long. But the simple thing is when you look at Baker Mayfield while he was here in Cleveland and Joe Flacco, the times that they did have success, they ran a lot, they ran the ball a lot, ran a lot of play action, and they figured it out. We don't have Nick Chubb. Jerome Ford is not a Nick Chubb light. I'm tired of hearing that. He's maybe make you miss if I got to win a foot race, I can possibly do it type of guy. He's a good spell back. He might even be more productive somewhere else. But here, as of right now, I just don't see it. We look at the fact that this is a ground and pound offense. And without the blocking of David Njoku and the fact that Batman himself, Nick Chubb, can't hide the flaws that we have in this offensive line besides the fact that they've gotten old. We're now in a pass happy offense that mirrored somewhat of what Deshaun was successful at Clemson and Houston. So I don't feel like the blame should really go to him. I feel like the blame should go to Andrew Berry because there have been big receivers, physical receivers who can win one on one in the trade market, like T. Higgins. Um, we don't really know if uh, CeeDee Lamb was available for a trade. I don't really think he was, but we didn't really hear much of them exploring it other than coming across Bleacher Report or ESPN. Um, the Brandon Ayuk trade wasn't really going to happen. Um, but you can kind of see now and understand now why they tried to give up Amari Cooper for Brandon Ayuk for the simple fact that it might just be the fact that he just can't outrun anybody anymore, and he's not the same guy. So I want to say that if, and this is an if, Deshaun Watson gets past this allegation, which I think he will, that this offseason, the draft and free agency should focus on three things: offensive line, wide receivers, and a slot corner. And that gets me to the defense. We expect Miles Garrett to be Batman, Superman, Robin, and the Flash by himself. He hasn't had time to sit with any of these injuries that he's accumulated in the early parts of the season. So it's causing other injuries and other things for him to deal with as he is playing through the injuries that he does have. Um, running the ball up the middle is just can't stop him. Jordan Hicks looks well, but it just doesn't seem to be enough. But Greg Newsom, I need you to stop celebrating. I need you to stop missing one-on-one tackles. I need you to stop getting torched. I need you to be the Greg Newsom that we we fell in love with early in your career here. Now, I don't know all of the play calls that are coming in for the defense. I don't know what his responsibilities are, but I do know for a fact that those open tackles that you consistently miss, or the fact that you're getting beat on a double move by a rookie in week 2, or that teams are absolutely scared, are absolutely jumping in their boots, excited to line up their best threat on you to get them away from Martin Emerson, to get them away from the Warden and Denzel Ward. It's got to change. Um, but I hate to think about the offseason, but I just want to end on this closing fact for all Browns fans. We got to think about the fact that Joe Batonio might retire. Wyatt Teller's making a lot of money. Ethan Pochich should be replaced. Jedrick Wills is on a 5th-year option. Are we going to resign him? I don't think so. DeJuan Jones is out of shape. Jack Conklin at the end of his career. Amari Cooper. They pretty much guaranteed his money, and He's most likely gone at the end of the year. Cedric Tillman, not somebody we could depend on. Elijah Moore, 1-year deal. On the defense, Zadarius Smith, 1-year deal. Next season will be Dalvin Tomlinson's last year. Jordan Hicks, 1-year deal. Juan Thornhill, end of his year contract. Martin Emerson, looking for a contract. Greg Newsome, 5th-year deal. Don't think they're going to keep him. They just paid JOK. We've been looking for a tandem piece with Myles Garrett since Myles Garrett got drafted here. Do we really think that Ronnie Hickman is the right replacement there for Juan Thornhill? Do we think Alex Wright is ready to replace Zadarius Smith? We still don't know what we have in the kid from Ohio State. I can't think of his name right now, but he's in legal trouble. I mean, he pled no contest, and that situation is over. But he's still on the commissioner's exempt list. Siaki Ika nowhere to be found. So that's why I feel like this is a year where there is no. We can't waste this year. We got to figure it out. If that means going back to 12 personnel or having David Njoku and 2 other offensive linemen out there to help run the ball, then that's what we got to do. Because until we can figure out the rest, we're just not going to survive. We got to kill the penalties. We got to kill the shooting ourselves in the foot. Greg Newsome with a hands to the face on Daniel Jones to take away an interception. They go down the field and score. We really gotta make a change. But you guys can catch me somewhere else at another time. You can catch me on Twitter at Talking Sports by the Lake, at Brogdon Evan on my personal. You can find me on Instagram or on TikTok under the same thing. And also check out Driving to the Top Productions for the open mic coming Tuesday night. You can check out Steelers Talk, Buffalo Bills. You can check out 49ers Talk. You can check out Jaguars Talk. So many teams that we cover here on our show. We have wrestling, we have baseball, we have college football. When basketball season starts, we will be having basketball shows as well. So with all that being said, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys soon.